I spent years living all the way in the box, afraid to step out, afraid to truly grab hold of my dream. And now I am breaking through, and I invite you to join me.
Your breakthrough starts now. Coming up on today's show, get ready to be inspired and transformed with our featured guests. Find out what's trending and get advice on life's daily challenges with Erica's top tips of the day. All of this and so much more coming up. So stay tuned. This is your one-stop shop for inspiration. The Erica Latrice Show. And now, here's your host, Erica.
Hello and welcome to the Erica Latrice Show. This is your one-stop shop for inspiration. I'm so excited about today's topic because I keep talking about this. It's all about the reset. How do you get to that place where you can refresh, keep going, especially if you felt discouraged at any point? Or maybe you woke up today feeling like it's too late. That's a place that we can always find ourselves in where it feels like maybe you missed the mark at some point, or maybe you just don't know how things are going to turn out. So if that is you, you are in the perfect place today. The best thing that you can do is join the conversation. I have a giveaway for today's show per usual. And all you got to do is leave a comment in the chat. I will have prompts for you throughout the show. But I want to get into my special guest in the Be Inspired Cafe today. Coming up, we have Janice, who is an entrepreneur. She is a powerhouse with a story, and you definitely want to stick around to hear her story. And we also have Kat, all the way from New Zealand, who is sharing how to stay fresh, how to rock it out in your midlife. So much packed into today's show. So this is a great time to grab a journal, grab your best friend, tag them, comment. We will be right back. And when I come back, I'm jumping straight into my top tips of the day. So my first challenge question for you is, have you ever wished that you could just get a reset? Have you ever seen, I love those movies where like Groundhog Day, you keep getting the do-over. Have you ever found yourself wanting a do-over or a reset? Answer that question in the comments. When we come back, I'm jumping into our top tips of the day. We'll be right back. Get ready for all new episodes of the Erica Latrice Show. You can join me weekdays at 2 o'clock Eastern across social media at Erica Empowers. That's Erica spelled like America. If you have a message that you want to share on the show, email us right now at info@ericalatrice.com or visit online at ericalatrice.com/be on the show. Welcome back. As promised, it's time for our top tips of the day. And today's message is all about resetting. Now, one of my favorite movies growing up actually was Groundhog Day, which is so corny. I would actually get excited about the holiday just because I like the movie. But in the movie, if you've seen Groundhog Day, don't leave me hanging, share in the comments. But the main character kept reliving the same day. And he went through the challenge of trying to figure out how could he get out of that day because he kept having to do it over. And I know a lot of times, I can't speak for everyone, but I know I've had moments where I've thought, man, if only I could just go back, if only I could redo that moment, if only I could do it again. But what I've learned is that what we do each day is what we're doing with our lives. And even if you need to hit the reset button, it doesn't mean that you're too late. It doesn't mean that you missed your opportunity. It simply means that now is the best time to become aware of your do-over and do it over each day, because every moment that you wake up is a new beginning. So number one, the first thing that I want you to think about and understand is that your past is not a coincidence. A lot of times we want to do the do-over because we feel like we made some kind of catastrophic mistake or something happened. And now if we could go back and put the brownie down, or if I could just go back and work out more, things would be better. And I was actually talking about this with my father, but I learned this lesson in a hard way. And I've shared with many of you how my mother recently passed away. But there was a time before she passed away where we experienced this storm. And because of the storm, our family became closer than ever before. Because in our family, I lost my home. My parents lost their home. And we went through this really tough time, but it allowed us to spend more time in the 2 years prior to my mother's passing than we ever would have really been able to spend. And so even in that moment, I know that sounds kind of heavy, but it showed me that nothing is a coincidence and we can't go back and change time. But what we can do is think about what are the lessons that we've learned. So that brings me to number 2 today. The first thing that you want to ask yourself is what worked? What worked in my favor? What worked out for the good? Even though I'm not saying take it lightly, I'm not saying that, just get over it, but try to think about those things that made you stronger. And this has been my challenge, and I would encourage you to answer this question, to fill in the blank. I'm stronger because even if it wasn't presented to us in the way that we want it, there are a lot of times where we go through things and there's actually something gained from that experience. There's actually a blessing that we can unfold there. And in fact, if you learn nothing else, it's how not to do it again. So when we're thinking about that reset and we're thinking about refreshing, everything that's happened to you up until this point has actually equipped you for your next step. And the second question that I would encourage you to ask yourself and really think about is, what didn't work? Because a lot of times we can think that there's a problem. And truthfully, it may be a problem. It may be a mistake. But even in our mistakes, it's just feedback. Your mistakes are just showing you what not to do and what to do in the future when that circumstance may come. And if nothing else, it just makes you that much more resilient to better approach it. What made you cry 6 months ago? What took you out 6 months ago? What stressed you out? The more that you go through those things, the stronger you become, and it won't even affect you the same way that it has before. So those are my top tips for you. And now I'm ready to jump straight into the Be Inspired Cafe. And our first guest is the epitome of everything that I just talked about, Kat. She is a powerhouse. She is an author. She is a speaker. She is a host of her own show. And she talks about how to rock it out in your midlife. So welcome with me into the Be Inspired Cafe. This powerhouse, Kat, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Erica. It's so good to see you again. And I love those tips. Really, really cool.
Love it. I'm always excited to see you, Kat, because you always bring the nuggets. You bring the really good diamond.
So, oh, man, there's pressure.
I know, right? A lot to live up to. But Tell us just a little bit about yourself. You have a really unique approach to life and not just quitting as we age, but actually becoming better as we age. So can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you got started with what you do now?
Sure. Okay, so I have a community and I have a podcast called Rocking Midlife. And Rocking Midlife has kind of been my mantra ever since I hit midlife, way back. So to give you some perspective, I turned 55 in October, which is coming really fast. And when I was 43, so over a decade ago, at that point, I'd given up all of my career and I was homeschooling my kids through high school because they were both elite sports people. And I was working with my youngest. She was applying to all the universities and the penny dropped that I was about to be redundant. So I had a choice. I could sit and pine for what was, and I see that with so many women, they get caught up with that whole empty nest thing and mourning for what they had. Or I could go out and choose to rock this next season of life. And that's the attitude I took. So I went and retrained and got a new career. But it was all about choosing to find joy in a situation that could have been incredibly painful.
I love it because I feel like when we get in those circumstances where it seems like things are shifting, things are changing quicker than we would like, it's easy to see that as a sign to quit. And I feel like, yes. In your story, you did the opposite. You're like, not only am I not quitting, I'm finding a way to help other people. So what would you say, what has been maybe those key principles or actions that you've taken that helped you to decide to keep going instead of giving up in the face of what would look like adversity?
Well, let's face it, midlife comes with so many changes. So your body's changing, your hormones are changing. A lot of women find their relationships have changed. Once the kids are out of the picture, they suddenly find they're living with a stranger. There's all these things. It's like shifting sands. And then we've got aging parents. We've got loss of parents, loss of friends. It's a really tumultuous time. And I chose not to ignore that. See, I'm not into toxic positivity where everything's happy, and we can never feel the negative. No, I'm all about we feel those emotions, but we can still choose to go through those emotions and find joy and find direction. So for me, it was going into a new career, which I went and worked as a personal trainer for the next 7 years. And I've come out of that now and I work with women online around the world. It's just about making those choices to keep moving forward. And like you're saying, resetting, not grieving, but resetting and moving forward.
Yes, and I think it's really cool too because in your reset, you transitioned or I would say you auditioned with your career path by adding new things and approaching it in a different way. And I know that once we've done things for quite some time, sometimes we can feel like it's not okay to switch it up. It's not okay to do something different. So can you speak to that? How did you find that faith, I guess, to take a leap and pivot and do something completely different or slightly different than what you were doing before?
Wow. Okay. So much in there. One, I'm an introvert. I process everything internally. So I didn't even tell my family. I basically did all the research, did all the thinking, went through the whole process, and then turned up one day and said, by the way, I'm going to be a personal trainer and my interview's tomorrow. And they all kind of looked at me in shock because I'd not even walked in a gym for the previous 10 years. But I'd let that percolate in my spirit, and I'd been thinking, what if? And I think that's such a key question that women should keep asking themselves. What if I tried this? What if I tried that? Rather than thinking of all things that could go wrong, start thinking, what if? So, and what I encourage women now, when they hit this midlife time, it's like you've got this little sliver of time sort of between the kids not needing you so much and hopefully your parents, and you're not too elderly and decrepit yourself. You've got this sliver of time where it's actually all about you. And that's when you can ask yourself that question. Do I like who I am? And do I like what I do? And if you can't fully answer 100% yes to either of those, then babe, go out and do something. This is your chance to change it up, reset. Sorry, I get all excited.
I'm getting excited. I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
let's keep going, Kat. Because I love that you said that when it gets to that point where it's all about us. And quite honestly, I feel like not in a vain way, not in a self-centered way, not in a like kick God out of the picture way, but when we focus on ourselves without feeling apologetic about doing and being more, without feeling like we have to answer to everyone else's opinion of what we should do, that's when we can show up even better for other people. So you said something really interesting, and I feel like many of us can relate, especially entrepreneurs, where your family didn't even know that you were making like that shift. So talk to us about that. How have you been able to rock it out without letting the opinions of others keep you from taking those leaps?
Well, I've got to be really honest. I'm someone who actually struggles still with opinions of others. It's always been my thing. I want to be liked, and I do struggle when I get pushback, particularly online. People can be quite nasty, and that's always been a challenge. Now I am very blessed in that my family are super supportive. So I joke about how I sprung it on them, but they knew something was brewing because of that particular stage in life when my daughter was going to be moving on to university. So my thing is, I think just communicate to the people that are closest to you. If you're thinking of making some changes, generally changes aren't that huge. Generally, like it's exactly what you said, Erica. It's just a little habit, a little thing each day that snowballs into that big change in your life. So bring those closest to you along for the journey, and then just put up the guard and don't let other people who you wouldn't normally speak into your life, don't let them have that place in telling you what to do.
That's so good. That's so good because I think about this, especially being on social media where many people are showing up in a similar environment, but for different reasons. And I find like one of the challenges for a lot of the women that I work with is just showing up. It's that feeling like, what will my family say? Or what will my friends say? And I think like, who are you actually showing up for? Because then you have to do it without apology, because the very people that sometimes we're worried about would either A, support us, or B, they don't even care. They're not even, like paying any attention. Yes. So what would you say, what has been one of those like key tools or life lessons that you've learned in taking your leap, and one that you find yourself maybe constantly teaching other people as well to stay strong?
Okay. I'm really big about purpose. Purpose is always been my driver, and I've always wanted to make sure that what I did was aligned with my core values and that purpose. And my purpose, I've known that ever since I was young, was to serve other people. I originally I had a 4-year education degree, and so I've always taught in some way or another. So whether I was teaching music initially, or high schoolers, or lecturing, or teaching people how to exercise in a gym, I was always imparting something. And my purpose was to serve and see people find transformation as they learned things about themselves. So I'm really thinking about getting other women to dig deep. What is their purpose? What is it? What are their core values? Are their core values to inspire, or to create awareness about something, or what is it? And if you can hone into that, that's what'll keep you grounded when you do get the pushback from people. So, when people were sort of like, what the hell are you doing that for? I was able to, stand solid because I knew what my purpose was, what it was that I knew that I was meant to be doing. And that helped me stand against any sort of naysayers along the way.
That makes all the difference when we know what we're going for. And that's how I feel. I will show up unless you're going to, take over my bills, my expenses, and feed my children. Then I have to do what's best for me. So I have so many questions for you. But we will be bringing Kat back for our final thoughts today. But Kat, I would love to know, how can we support you? If you have something that's out and available right now for the audience, what's the best way that we can get plugged in with what you're doing?
Okay, probably the best thing to do is either go to my Facebook page and message me, which is just Facebook, Kat Coluccio, or go to my website, katcoluccio.com. And I'm actually, if people are really wanting to do something really fast, I'm actually running a 2-hour creativity workshop this Saturday, which will probably be Friday evening for you guys. And that's all about just online, letting women have that space to dream and think creatively and just, reignite that little spark that they might have just held at bay while they were too busy being a mum and a career woman and doing everything for everyone else. So, yeah, that's how they can find me.
That's an exciting challenge, you all. So take a look at Kat's site, get plugged in with that. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I have another special guest in the Be Inspired Cafe who's talking about her road to entrepreneurship, what she's doing now. And today's episode is all about the reset, stepping out in purpose and doing something amazing. So join the conversation right now if you are interested in winning today's giveaway. And our question right now is, I am stronger because what has happened in your life that actually made you stronger, even though at that time it may have felt like a setback? So answer that. And when we come back, we will have Janice in the Be Inspired Cafe. So don't go anywhere. If you're watching this, so are your potential clients. I'm excited to announce an all-new season of The Erica Latrice Show. It's coming up right now, and we're looking for featured guests as well as sponsors. If you want to be a success supporter of this show, connect with our team right now by emailing info@ericalatrice.com to get more information or just support the mission of Be Inspired, to empower and inspire people all around the world with a message of hope and encouragement. Our mission is to bring you uplifting news and talk to encourage and share a platform for those who have a powerful message and looking for a place to share it. If you want to partner with the Erica Latrice Show, you can do so by emailing info@ericalatrice.com or visit ericalatrice.com/sponsor so that you can be a success supporter of this inspirational movement. Hello and welcome back. I'm over here like dancing. I have so much energy and I'm going to blame Kat for it because she brought all the energy today. So I am so excited about our next guest coming up in the Be Inspired Cafe. We are talking about her road to entrepreneurship, what it means to really step out. And as we've been talking about this episode today, how to get to that place of a reset. So welcome with me, Janice in the Be Inspired Cafe. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you, Erica. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. I'm excited. I am like, when I see like cake and party, that's probably the other reason I have all the energy today. Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you got started into this road to entrepreneurship?
Well, I started out my career when I graduated college. I worked in information technology for over 25 years. And in 2000, my second daughter turned 2, and I decided I was going to decorate her cake. And I realized that I had a love for decorating cakes. I had always loved cooking and baking. So I trained, I did all the cake decorating classes I could find. And I continued decorating cakes for people at work while I worked in corporate America. But I knew then that working in information technology was not really fulfilling for me. I wasn't happy. I felt empty. And I kept going back to baking every time I felt empty, and it filled me up, and I continued doing it on the side. but I dare not branch out to be a full-time baker. For one, I think my family would shun me. And two, I wasn't confident enough in myself that this is something I could do and make a living doing. So I continued working in information technology. And in 2012, after 20 years with one company, I basically decided it was time to leave. And I just took a break because I was burnt out. I had worked my way to the top. I was traveling. My kids were growing up. I was a single parent by then. And I just decided I need to go follow my dreams now. And I took a stint then, and then I got scared and I went back to information technology. And after 2 layoffs in the span of a year and a half, I decided God's redirecting me somewhere. I don't need to be in IT anymore. Someone I met that knew me from I was in high school. I went to boarding school, and they said, I heard your laugh and I knew it was you because I remembered that laugh from high school. And I said, I'm in IT, I'm laughing, but the people in IT typically are not sociable people. So I felt like I was a misfit and I needed to go find my true purpose. I'm blessed in that I have many talents. My friends call me gifted hands. I sew, I make 3D masks, I make all kinds of masks. I bake, I cook, I do Sunday dinners. So when I was laid off in November, I got laid off even before COVID, and I was home and I was like in this big house and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm going to do some YouTube videos. So if you look at YouTube, you can find my videos, and everybody who watches them, they're like, you are hilarious, but we still learn, So yes. I started doing the videos, and then I decided to just say, let me look for an online culinary school because I don't want to be going into a classroom to school. I'm too old for that. And I just stumbled over this school, and they had a class starting in 2 weeks. I registered, did everything, and the next thing I knew, I was in culinary school full time.
So I want to talk about your transition because this is really cool. We've been talking about reset, and I love Kat shared her transition, and it's always a theme like family and friends where maybe we can't make that big announcement, but we need to transition out. So what would you say, what was that moment like for you when you finally decided the second time around? I think it usually takes many of us 2 or 3 times to finally say, you know what, I'm all in. What was that moment like for you? And what would you say your biggest lesson learned in that moment was to take that leap and do something different?
I think for me, it was the way I felt. I felt happy. I wanted to get up in the morning. I used to struggle to get up to go to work. Now I'm up at 5:30. I'm like, what's going on? I want to go to work. I want to do what I'm going to do. And it's just this desire, and you want to keep creating, and you keep thinking and recreating. And for me, I just felt at peace.
Yes, it makes a difference. And I used to call this the Monday blues, where Sunday it starts seeping in. And I know a lot of people still going through the Monday blues where, yes, your whole energy just shifts around 8 p.m. on Sunday. It's like, oh, here we go, countdown, So I find it really interesting too when I think about reset, because even what I do now, I was so afraid to finally just let it go. But what's funny is that I find there are a few things that usually happen for most people when they take the leap. They learn that what they thought was stable isn't as stable anyways. They end up getting fired, or they just end up getting to the point where you literally just don't want to get up. It's just like, I would cry on my way to work. What encouragement would you give to someone if they're watching right now and they can relate to everything that you're saying, but maybe they're just looking for like that one extra sign or that one extra word of encouragement to really line up with that decision? What advice would you give?
My advice would be to follow your heart. If something makes you happy and makes you whole, the rest will come. Because the first time around, my family hardly spoke to me, because they were like, you have a master's degree. What are you doing working in bakeries and all this stuff? And my desire, like Kat said, you want to please everyone. And being the youngest, you feel like you have to follow what everybody else is doing. but your own true happiness is what matters. And if you're happy, then everything else will follow and fall into place. And that's my advice.
Yes, and I love it because I've been talking about the do-over, and the truth is we get one shot, period. Like we get one shot each day. Each day, time is the one thing you can't get back. And too often we fill our time up with what pleases other people and thinking, you know, some arbitrary date, that's when I'll do something for myself. And I'm sure you're familiar with the airplane principle where people talk about putting your mask on first, because then you can go and help others. So as you've leaped, you've taken this leap, you're stepping out, you're doing it. What would you say, what's been one of the most fulfilling experiences that you've had since full time or stepping out and doing what you love opposed to what you have education for?
I think what fills me up actually is the feedback I get from my customers when they get a cake that they love, or they have a Sunday dinner that they absolutely love. It really makes me feel good. Yeah.
So this is really cool too. My next question for you, as we get ready to wrap up, I have 1,000 questions every time. I'm such a question asker, but has there been a time too where you thought about what that moment was like when you realized this was a gift for you? When did you realize, like, I'm really gifted in this area, and even though it's not necessarily the path that others would have for me, I'm stepping out. So how did you know this was your gift?
I was sitting at the kitchen counter one day and I was filming a video for YouTube, and I had a rag in my hand, and it was a big kitchen towel that I had cut in half. And it had the strings where I had cut it, they were loose, and it was driving me crazy. I paused the video, the recording. I took a scissors and I snipped off the string, and I looked across the room where I had my sewing machine sitting on the table in my breakfast area, trying to make its way upstairs to the sewing room. And I looked at the sewing table and I walked over, stitched up the rag, and came back and continued baking and doing the video. And that's when it hit me. I was like, girl, how many people can do this?
Right.
You have a gift from God. You're sitting here baking, and then you just get up and sew something, and you come back and you continue baking like nothing happened. And I just laughed at myself, and that's when it hit me. I said, you are talented and blessed, and you need to use these talents and gifts that God gave you.
I love it. I'm a strong believer in that. Your gift will make room for you. And too often we hide it, we throw it away, we take it lightly, and we still find ourselves. I'm going to use an example, and then we're going to get ready for our final thoughts. But I don't know, for any of you that like decorating, I will rearrange a room in a heartbeat. So I rearranged my living room with my daughter over the weekend. And then I'm like moving furniture. I pulled everything out, taking couches, put them in the kitchen, everything, right, to rearrange this room. And then finally, I'm like, aha, that's where this chair goes. I put everything back, and me and her just busted out laughing because I did all this rearranging only to end up with the exact same layout. I put the chair right back where it started 2 hours later. And that's what I find happens when we have a gift, when we have something that drives us, it won't go away. You can try to hide it. You can try to push it down on the back burner. It's going to keep coming up until you really nurture it.
It's like guacamole. You keep hitting it and it keeps popping up somewhere else.
Yes. So I want to know, we're going to take a break. But before we do that, Janice, for those that want to get connected with you, learn more about what you do, what's the best way that we can support what you're doing?
Okay. So Facebook, YouTube, and my website, they're all JM Party Cakes. And for Instagram, it's JM Party Cakes too. If you type that on your search bar, just me. I'm the only one that will pop up. JM Party Cakes. There's just one of me.
I love it. I love your confidence. I'm like, listen, I'll be headed there after the show today too.
And please don't go to the JM Party Cakes Instagram. Make sure you go to JM Party Cakes too, because JM Party Cakes was hacked. The Instagram, yeah.
I love it. Well, if you're watching right now, don't leave yet. But as soon as the show ends, go and check out Kat's site. Go check out what Janice is doing. We're going to take a short break. I would challenge you. Now is the time. Grab someone, tell a friend, share this right now. We're going to get into our final thoughts and our giveaway for today. And so if you're interested in winning, all you got to do is comment, leave a comment here live on the show, and I'll be announcing winner. in just a moment. Now, I encourage you to watch this next break. It's about my book Finish, and I will tell you what you can do next after you've watched this and we come back with our final thoughts. So get your copy of my all-new book, Finish, where you can transform your life and get projects done in as little as 7 days. Go to ericalatrice.com. All right, welcome back. It's time for our final thoughts. And I have with me here Kat, I have with me Janice. And we just want to wrap up today and let you know just what the best takeaway is when you're thinking about resetting, as you've heard both of their stories, when you think about stepping out and doing something different. So let's start with you, Kat. What's that final tip that you would hope the audience would walk away with today?
I think give yourself the gift of time. So if you're finding that, like what Janice was saying, you're feeling like you're not feeling it basically at work or with what you do with your life, give yourself a little bit of time out. And sometimes we have to give ourselves permission for that, because we can fall into this martyr mode where, I could never do that. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. Well, I'm saying no, give yourself permission to stop, take some time out and reevaluate. It's like I said, just those 2 questions you can answer yourself. Do I like who I am? And do I like what I do? And take the time to mull over those and pray about it and see what comes up, and how you answer those 2 will determine what you do next.
I love it. Do I like who I am? Do I like what I do? In all caps, 17 exclamation marks. Janice, what's that final thing that you would hope the audience would leave with today?
What's that final thing? There's so many things I want to say. But like Kat said, you give yourself permission to try something new. And when you wake up in the morning, are you excited about what you're about to do for the rest of the day? If the answer is no, then maybe it's time to start doing some soul searching.
Yep.
Give yourself permission to fail. Remember, the guy who discovered the light bulb, he failed many times. Post-it notes were an accident. They were not an intentional invention. So sometimes you get to where you need to be by accident, but you have to give yourself permission.
Yes, I've heard the quote, fail your way to success. And that is so true. Fail your way to success, because failure is just feedback. And that's what I would leave every one of you watching. You've seen their stories. Both Kat and Janice are now waking up. And I don't know if you caught it, but they're both smiling now. Like they're waking up with joy. Kat, it's like 5 a.m. where she's at. Janice got up at 5:30 a.m. today. I'm going to say she was doing backflips, ready to step out and live her dreams. So I just want to say thank you so much to both of you for taking time out to be on today's show. You got to come back and keep dropping those wisdom nuggets. And
thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. We're going to drum roll. They're loving you too in the comments. You both have been so amazing. I want to congratulate Terry Best, who is proud of you, Janice. And Terry, you are the winner for today's giveaway. All you got to do is email me at info@ericalatrice.com. You just won a 7-day program to help you get things finished. And that includes an e-copy of my book, Finish, as well as 7 days of coaching to go along with it. So that is my message for you all today. Now is always a great time to keep sharing the episode, even after we're not live anymore. And you can stay connected with me across social media at Erica Empowers. As I'm always telling you all, I tell you all this every single episode, and I mean it. Go out and make today, not yesterday, not tomorrow, not next week. Go out and make the rest of today amazing, because it is absolutely a choice. Take care, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.
For more inspiration, visit us online at ericalatrice.com.